I was covering like, Fed rate hikes and like car crashes and like burglaries, a lot of car chases in there.
I always try to do my research a little bit before people hop on, just to look at like, cause I do like a little intro and stuff of, what you've done and what you're about. And I was looking through your stuff, creeping and stalking you on the internet. My God, Your resume, my man. Like you've been everywhere. You've been everywhere. And last year I was following your amateur boxing thing that you were doing and stuff. Was that?
Oh,
that was last
thank you.
Year, right?
Yeah. That was 2 years ago,
2 years
actually.
ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun to watch. That was fun to see what you were doing there.
Time flies.
It really does. Because like we met each other like years and years ago in Vegas.
Oh, ages ago. I can't even. This was pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah,
it had to have been.
It was pre-pandemic. Yeah. So it's been. It's been a while. It's great to every time that we interact and stuff like that, I'm always excited to see your your avatar or wherever it may be. But I'm excited,
thanks, man.
I'm really excited to dig in here. Let's talk about that resume and that journey that has gone. I mean, like I said, I was going in like you're an Emmy winner, a multi-time Emmy winner, because you do the broadcasting stuff, but then you also got into the fantasy stuff. And how did all of this come about for James Coe?
So so I've won a bunch of Emmy awards in my previous life as like a on-camera news guy. So I won 2 Emmys doing hard news. Like when I first started my TV career, I was just covering regular news. I didn't do sports at all. I was covering Fed rate hikes and like car crashes and like burglaries.
I'm assuming some car chases that you've
a lot of car chases in there too. Weather reports like, the 5 freeways got ice on it. We go live to James Coe. What's happening over there? I'm getting pelted by ice and rain and stuff. It's like, man, it's crazy. Anyways, so no, I was doing hard news for a bit, and then I was a local news reporter for like 6 years, and then when I finally got to LA, I was doing local news, but then my news director, my boss, asked if I wanted to do sports. I'm like, yeah, of course. And to be clear, I always wanted to do sports. So it's not as if this came out of the blue. I always wanted to do sports, but I also had to pay the bills.
Sure, of course.
And to do that, you can move up in the industry a lot faster covering news than you do covering sports. I don't know, for anyone who's listening out there, it's like, think about your like local sportscaster guy. He's probably been in that seat for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So waiting for somebody to like retire or move on, it's not a great career choice or a smart career choice. So I wanted to make a career choice where I can like move up the ranks a lot faster and get paid faster and do those things. And finally, when I got to LA, I started doing some weekend sports and stuff like that. That's before I got to NFL Network.
Yeah. So then from there, you got to NFL Network, and that's where like was fantasy part of like your repertoire in terms of like what you were interested in, or was it the broadcasting that kind of got you into then the door with like NFL Network and stuff?
So, this is kind of like life advice for people, but whenever you go into a job interview, you really want to be able to not just sell yourself, but also sell yourself in that company, right? Yeah. So when I went into that interview with NFL Network, I went in there, and told the guy, hey, listen, like I've got 4 Emmy awards, like whatever. But at the same time, that's selling yourself. When you tell people about all the accolades and everything, that's selling yourself. But then when I talked about my role at NFL Network, it was like, I love what you guys are doing on the fantasy side, but listen, I have been playing fantasy football since 1997. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like a long ass time. Like I definitely know that I can bring broadcasting chops, Emmy, like award-winning broadcasting chops to your fantasy side, to your fantasy product, and elevate the product in that way, because I know, love, breathe fantasy football. And also I have all this experience doing broadcasting work too. So that's why I think I would be a huge fit and a huge, benefit to be brought aboard at NFL Network. And that's how I ended up getting my job.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you were doing like, it's like descriptive data versus predictive data, right? Where you're like, I can do these things as a broadcaster. There's a descriptive stuff. Like I'm showing you that I've done this, but here's what I can do and bring it to the table. That's great though. And then that's where you met Harmon and et cetera. And then you and Harmon now you're a co-owner at Reception Perception. Yeah.
Yeah, when I found out that Matt was going to start his website, I immediately wanted to invest and be part of his journey there and just handle all the things that he doesn't want to do, which is all the business stuff. Like he doesn't want to deal with HR. He doesn't want to look into, website management or advertising or sponsors. He just wants to go in there and create content. He wants to chart these guys. He wants to sit in a dark room and chart wide receivers. That's his deal,
Yeah.
But again, when you start a website, as JJ, it's just kind of like there's so much more to just handling, than just creating content, and that's kind of where I kind of step in. And again, I want to invest in my friend and I really believed in him and in the product and stuff like that. So I kind of handle a lot of the stuff on the back end. Yeah,
that's great. Two great people coming together, creating something awesome. I mean, I'm a sub. I think Harmon gifted it to me, to be fair, but
there you go.
I love all the work that you guys are doing, and you have been doing running back work over you started that this summer, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, the running back stuff. So I have a question. So you're obviously Harmon's doing the wide receiver thing, and that's sort of his bread and butter at this point. Not sort of, that is his bread and butter at this point.
Yeah.
But my question to you, and this is obviously gonna be more football focused now, but like you charting these running backs, number one, was that something that was just purely an interest for you, or like where did that come about? But then the second part to that, I'm curious, like at a high level in charting, like what are some things that you've discovered that you didn't really know before or didn't think about before that you are now sort of like in a more comprehensive way understanding about that position?
Well, I wanted to do this since the jump. So when I first, signed on with Matt and invested into the company, like this is something that I knew that we should do, just because from a company standpoint, there's going to be obviously a lot of interest in wide receivers, but again, there's equal interest in running backs too when we're starting to talk about this kind of stuff, right? So I knew that that's something that I wanted to do. I've always loved running backs. If I could go back in time and somehow genetically modify myself, I would love to play running back. It's been my favorite position.
Like pain,
I love
man.
Watching these guys.
Boxing and now running back. My gosh,
I know.
You just love taking
Maybe
a
that's
beating.
what it is. I don't know. I guess so. Yeah. I guess so. I don't know. There's something about it. I've always gravitated towards that position. But it's been a while. It's been a long time in the making, just because I've been so busy with so many different things. Again, when we first signed on together, I was still working full-time at NFL Red Zone. Yeah. So that was my full-time gig. And so I just, I got 2 kids, man, married, mortgages and all that. It's just hard, right? So, but now that I really wanted to dig in this past summer and just say, you know what? My schedule has lessened a bit, and I have a little bit of carve out time that I can do and spend and dedicate to the running back position. And now I'm obsessed. Yeah. Now I'm obsessed, man. Like once I got into it, I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to be doing. This is what I need to be doing, man. And so I really love charting and doing all those things at the running back position. You ask me about what I've learned. I think I took for granted how difficult it was for offensive lines to run outside zone. So I know this is like super niche, but because when you look around, JJ, it's like, okay, well, why can't everyone just do what Kyle Shanahan is doing, or the Shanahans in general? Like, why can't people do what Sean McVay was doing, 3-4 years ago? Just run outside zone, guys. Like, it's clearly the way. Right. It's clearly the scheme fit that generates the most running back production. Why isn't everyone doing this? And then when I started charting, I'm like, oh, this is why. Because bad O-lines cannot do this. Yeah. Bad O-line, and there's a lot of coaching involved too. Just bad O-lines just don't know who to block. And when you don't know who to block, these plays end up getting blown up. So bad O-lines are not able to run outside zone at any, efficiency. They're really just not able to run outside pretty much at all. So, man gap principles on the outside are a little bit easier because you know exactly who you need to target. But even then, that gets a little bit murky and a little bit difficult. And I think that's probably the number one thing I learned just in terms of charting.
That's super interesting. Very interesting. All right, let's talk about this fantasy football season. What so far has surprised you the most? Now we're 4 weeks in. We're recording this before the Thursday night game, so week 5 has not officially started yet. But so far, what's been the biggest surprise for you?
I would say the biggest surprise is, and this is impacting me personally, but just the lack of chemistry between Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh my God.
And Trevor Lawrence. I thought that Liam Cohen was going to be, he's going to be the cure-all.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the offense really has done well, I would say, in every aspect other than Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
And Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? Like, Trevor Lawrence is playing well when he's throwing to Brenton Strange, when he's throwing to Parker Washington, when he's throwing to De'Ami Brown. Like, he's got a pretty good handle on the offense overall. But when you don't have the star piece of that puzzle, everything looks a little not as good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the whole chemistry or lack of chemistry between BTJ and Trevor Lawrence, I think that surprised me and has continued to surprise me as the season wears on.
Yeah, what's funny is that last year, because like Brian Thomas did a lot of what he did from a production standpoint with Mac Jones, right? And so there was a lot of the, I got plenty of questions over the offseason of like, are you worried at all? I was basically at market with Brian Thomas, but it was like, are you worried at all about Mac Jones not being the quarterback? And I'm just like, I brushed it off for the most part. Because,
totally.
Like, why, like, of course we understand that chemistry is a thing and can be a thing, but why would it be Mac Jones versus, what we think is an upgrade to Trevor Lawrence, Right. And I agree. Like, I think conceptually and schematically, I like what I'm seeing in Jacksonville. And we're getting a lot out of the running backs, and, Travis Etienne's averaging over 6 yards per carry right now. And looks good too. And so like we're seeing a lot of those concepts that we saw in Tampa Bay coming over to Jacksonville, but they can't get on this. I can't tell if it's one of those things where like the perfect storm has just kind of happened. And like, when Brian Thomas is on, Trevor Lawrence is off. And when Trevor Lawrence is on, Brian Thomas is off. I'm kind of hoping that's the case. Like, are you still more in the camp of buying into Brian Thomas, or are you actually nervous about what this could look like rest of season?
I am coming around. Through the first 2 weeks, I was pretty nervous, but I would say the last couple of weeks, I felt like there's been a noticeable tick up in terms of production for Brian Thomas and the chemistry between he and Trevor Lawrence. It's really unfair, I think, to both parties, right? Because like whenever you assess blame for this, and to me, truly, I think it's really 50-50.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas is alligator arming a lot of throws. He's not running through a lot of his in-breaking routes.
Some of the like there have been picks, like interceptions that Brian Thomas just literally stopped running, and it was clearly not on Trevor Lawrence. Yeah.
And so and it's like when you assign the blame, it's kind of like, well, the assumption is that one of those two parties needs to play perfectly, and in football that just is never the case. It's such a messy sport, man, so like Trevor Lawrence is not going to play perfectly, Brian Thomas Jr. is not going to play perfectly. I get it. And so to your point of, I think they're both playing imperfectly at the wrong times.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just not going together. But the last couple of weeks, I think we have seen them kind of sort of gel a little bit more together. And I do wonder too if Liam Cohen, who's a smart guy, fiery guy too. Jesus Christ, I was not prepared to see him ready to fight Robert Saleh.
That was fun.
At the end of the game.
I think the NFL needs more of that. To be honest with you, like I think it's great. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. But again, I think he's a pretty smart guy in Liam Cohen.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's going to continue to ask BTJ to run the exact same route tree that he ran the first couple of weeks. I think we may see some more vertical downfield shots, and maybe that's a way to kind of unlock some of that untapped potential and ceiling for BTJ as the season wears on.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's also one of those things, and I talked about this in my mailbag episode, but it's like, this isn't to me like Calvin Ridley or something where like that offensive environment is absolute trash. Calvin Ridley was not and is not the kind of player that Brian Thomas is. He's obviously, he's going to be 31 years old at the end of, like, maybe this is maybe this is it for Calvin Ridley. Like, who knows? Like, we have no idea, but like, it's just a much different like positioning and stuff. Like, we can't just let go of our priors with a player like Brian Thomas. It would be kind of foolish, I think, after just a month of football. We can adjust. Of course, we have to adjust, but completely letting go just seems insane. We had a really weird waiver wire this week where there were some guys that, we felt pretty good about. Now, obviously, if like Woody Marks was out there, then he was going to be, a blow your fab kind of player. But there's these like lingering injuries everywhere, and like we didn't get like we haven't even gotten, at the time of this recording, we don't even know if Bucky Irving's going to play or not this week. It sounds like he's not. But like, and then you get like the Trey Benson IR thing officially hitting after Tuesday to Wednesday waivers.
After waivers run.
Yeah, right. So everyone's scrambling to get Michael Carter and stuff, and Amari DiMercato. Do you have any like lower key waiver wire ads this week that you think could make a bigger impact than sort of the consensus was thinking?
The funny thing to me is I don't know why everyone's sleeping on Isaiah Davis there in New York. Braylon Allen is going to miss, it sounds like multiple weeks. I mean, he's an IR candidate right now. He's got a pretty serious knee injury.
Yeah, I think he might have gone on IR today, actually. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right. So again, it's like we're talking about Isaiah Davis here. I don't understand. On Yahoo, he is 3% rostered right now, which I don't understand. And like, to me, JJ, what's funny is I would rather roster Isaiah Davis than Michael Carter. Like, we have evidence that Michael Carter and Amari DiMercato are not needle movers, right? Like, we have evidence of this. We've seen them play extensive amounts of football, right? And these guys are not needle movers. I would argue that we haven't really seen any kind of evidence that Isaiah Davis is not a needle mover, right? Like, this is a guy that averaged 5.8 yards per carry last year. He was straight up better than Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen averaged 3.6 yards per carry. You're wondering, well, why isn't he the backup? Well, draft capital matters to a lot of these teams, right? And Braylon Allen had a more, storied collegiate career. He had obviously the draft pedigree. Thus, he is the backup to Breece Hall. And the thing about the Jets right now is that, listen, they don't want to give Breece Hall full-on control of that backfield. They don't want to give him 70%, 75% of the backfield touches, right? Like, so I think that Isaiah Davis is actually going to work in to like a 40% snap share there in New York. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. And maybe it might even be more if he starts to play really, really well. So again, I just go back to, I would rather have Isaiah Davis than Michael Carter, because Davis to me has shown more on the football field than Michael Carter has. And again, I know we're scrambling for Michael Carter because the Trey Benson news was there. I'm just a little bit confused by it because I just don't think either one of Carter or Amari DiMercato are going to be needle movers in fantasy.
Yeah, I think, look, I agree with you. And especially when you compare and contrast Isaiah Davis to Braylon Allen. I wrote about this actually in my prospect guide because I do the year 2 model stuff. And so I write up, the year 2 guys. And with Braylon Allen, like, his peripherals and his secondary numbers and his advanced analytics were pretty atrocious last year. Like, they were not good. And then he was getting a lot of steam in camp and entering the season and such. And it was fine to buy into that a little bit because whatever, it's a late round pick, it doesn't matter. And he's a young player, like really young player, like only 21 years old. And so, he can obviously improve as a player. But Isaiah Davis had just an unbelievably underrated, like in a small sample, sure, but underrated rookie season. And my thinking with that split and the way that they've used Breece Hall versus Braylon Allen is that the two of them are more complementary pieces as players, right? Like, Braylon Allen is sort of just like this bulky, not going to catch a ton of passes, kind of just grind between the tackles kind of player. I think they were hoping that he would become like a true bruiser that they could use at the goal line consistently and like be that complement to Breece Hall being more of like the elusive, agile player. But Isaiah Davis might be more of like an in between the two of those guys and maybe even be more of the Breece Hall archetype if you were to just categorize between those two. And that might be part of the reason why, they preferred going Allen versus Davis. But every time that Davis has been on an NFL field, like, he's been really effective. And I'm with you, man. I mean, I was a borderline like truther when he was coming out last year. So like, I'm getting really, I'm also like this is my week because I loved Isaiah Davis coming out. I love Sean Tucker coming out. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, please let this happen for these guys. Right. But I'm with you. Like, it didn't really make that much sense that he was an afterthought. I mean, I'm in some like home leagues where like I got him for $1, like it was just, no one really cared. And I understand it's not the best offense in the world, but it's also an offense that funnels looks to their running backs like pretty aggressively. So really, really like that call out. We also have a lot of interesting tight ends coming off waivers this week, which is not what we typically see. But there's 3 of them that I do want to talk a little bit about. I think the the go-to obvious one that people want to learn most about and learn more about is Darren Waller. So talk to me about Waller and if you are bullish or bearish on this situation.
I'm extremely bullish on Darren Waller for a couple of reasons. I don't think the productivity, look, the 2 touchdown performance, obviously that's a little fluky, but I just think his usage overall, I don't think was very fluky. Like, I get that he only ran 10 routes. He only played 25% of the snap. So if you looked at that, you would say, okay, Darren Waller's an older player. I don't know if I want to buy into it. Miami, it's not like Miami's offense right now is looking that good either, right?
Yeah.
That being said, I think the usage, that it makes sense for a player in his first game back from an incredibly long layoff. Right. I do think that they will get him utilized more as the season wears on. And really, the real reason why I'm so intrigued by Darren Waller is I can't help but think about Jonnu Smith's like ridiculous, ludicrous, absurd usage in Miami last year. I got to be honest with you, I did not agree with it. You know, like you had a good offense, you had Tyreek and you had Jalen Waddle. Just throw to those guys. Why are we building out an entire offensive game plan for Jonnu Smith in Miami? Like, what are we doing out here? I don't get it. But that being said, that is what happened, right? And so now Mike McDaniel now has Darren Waller. Tyreek Hill is now gone for the season. There's just so much like coalescing there in Miami around Darren Waller for him to really succeed. His health has to hold up. But if he can stay healthy, I think there is a lot of reasons for optimism for that kind of production to kind of sort of follow him throughout the year.
I thought that his touchdown, like the one that was that Tua just threw it at the goalpost basically, and he and he toe tapped, he comes down with it. To me, I'm watching that and I'm like, the fact that Waller can step onto a football field after not playing for over a year and a half or however long, and then he does that. That has to make you at least get somewhat excited about what he might be able to do. Even just that micro kind of just that athleticism was still pretty apparent. So I'm with you. Tyreek Hill being out should be able to, funnel targets to different areas. Hopefully Jalen Waddle ends up kind of living up to what folks think that and believe he might be able to be. But, looks have to go somewhere. And I think Darren Waller's is one place it can go. Mason Taylor's another one. He's been running a lot of routes, but last couple of weeks he's getting more and more involved. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, he's a rookie tight end, so we want to be patient with our rookies here, especially at the tight end position. Generally, rookie tight ends don't do much. I know Brock Bowers kind of sort of broke that mold, and Trey McBride obviously was really good as a rookie too. But again, I would probably just say we should use a little bit of caution in regards to Mason Taylor. I really like him. He's a really, really good athlete. And let's be real, Justin Fields did help elevate Cole Kmet as well. True. Although we are finding that Cole Kmet is kind of sort of quarterback proof because, he's outperformed Gerald Everett, who they brought in the offseason as a free agent. He's outperformed Colston Loveland, a highly touted rookie as well. So we're finding out Cole Kmet's a pretty good player. But that being said, Mason Taylor has that, pedigree as well. He has that athleticism. Justin Fields, I think when he's looking for an outlet valve, has utilized the tight end a little bit. So I think there's a lot of optimism and hope here for Mason Taylor. I think he can develop. And in this week in particular, when he's taking on Dallas defense that has obviously really struggled defensively, I think he can kind of sort of keep that hot streak going that we saw last week. Yeah.
He could very easily finish the season as their number 2 option in the passing game.
Totally.
All right, last one. Theo Johnson, 25% target share last week with Jackson Dart.
Again, I think there is a lot of reasons why we should get excited about Theo Johnson. I know right now everyone's kind of sort of moving towards Darius Slayton, which I get. I love Darius Slayton, but again, Theo Johnson, to me, if we're talking about a rookie quarterback, where they clearly don't trust him to have a full complement of the playbook. You know what I'm saying? It's 111 yards passing. JJ, what I found really interesting is that we can all sit here and say quarterback wins are not a stat and quarterback wins especially don't matter in fantasy, but for whatever reason, the hype around Jackson Dart, right, is built around the fact that he actually won a game against the LA Chargers. That's what's funny to me.
Yeah, dude, I'll tell you what. I think that the Giants in general are just the most vibes-based team on earth right now. Where you get Jackson Dart, just crazy vibes. I've said all along, even through the prospecting process, I was like, he's got that like psycho Josh Allen in him, you know, like that just insanity where he's going to throw his body around a little bit. And then you get Cam Scatterbo, who like for all intents and purposes was not even remotely effective this past week, you know, like not but he's such a vibe and he's so fun. And it's totally such a great combo that I do think that that's just like naturally kind of elevating things right now in the way that we view, you know, the Giants, but I'm going along for the ride. I think it's fun.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Look, I like I said, 111 yards passing for Jackson, for Jackson Dart, right? Like, so again, like, I don't know if Brian Daboll fully trusts Dart to run the entire playbook, but and if that's the case, if we're talking about a stripped down playbook for Jackson Dart, there's no question. I think Theo Johnson will be utilized heavily, you know, kind of sort of as a safety valve for Dart. And listen, Theo's he's a great athlete, man. He's a crazy good athlete. Yes. So if we're looking for some checkdowns and things of that nature, I think Theo Johnson's in a really, really good spot. And yeah, New Orleans, again, has, you know, struggled at times defensively. I think he's a pretty good play this week too.
So since we talked about these two offenses, I had some other questions about the injuries that we saw at wide receiver, and Malik Neighbors obviously being, you know, the main one this past week with his ACL. Do you how are you feeling about like Wan'Dale versus Darius Slayton versus Theo? Like, do you think that there is a legitimate enough ceiling for these guys to be like, you know, top 30 wideouts in fantasy, or is this more of like a bye-week fill-in kind of play?
Yeah, I think they're more bye-week fill-ins, and I think you just want to play the matchups. You know what I mean? That being said, the matchup for Darius Slayton is pretty good. New Orleans has given up a lot of production to outside wide receivers.
Yep.
It's really confusing, right? Like, Theo Johnson was tied for the team lead in terms of targets. He had 5. Wan'Dale Robinson also had 5, but Darius Slayton actually led the way in terms of receiving yards because he was getting more downfield shots. So how are we feeling about this whole, and again, we're trying to parse out the smallest pie in the whole world, 111 yards passing, you know?
Right.
Like, so again, it's just, it's really interesting. So when I put it that way, I'm not clamoring to get Darius Slayton. I'm not clamoring to get Wan'Dale Robinson. I think they'll both be really, really inconsistent from a production standpoint. And you really do want to play the matchups overall. But Slayton's an interesting one to me because Matt Harmon and I have gone back on back and forth on Darius Slayton quite a few times. I just think he's underrated. Yeah. You know, because I think people view Darius Slayton as like this end of the roster guy, like he's a nothing basically. Yeah. And to me, I think he would elevate the passing attacks of damn near every single team in the NFL. I'm not saying he's a number 1.
Right, like at least it's like a
even
3.
A number 2.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's a 3, but he's a 3 with skills.
Right, totally.
And the skills that he brings are he can work downfield. Yeah. Right? Like, and when you look around the league, JJ, there's just such a dearth of true downfield X receivers in the NFL right now. That's why I think that Darius Slayton on any team would help their passing attack. Not because of any other reason than once or twice a game, you could throw to him downfield and he can try to go and make a play. Yeah. And at the very least, he's stressing the defense, right? So that's why I think he's just been an underrated player. I think he'll still have that similar role, but more volume here. For the New York Giants. So in that way, I think he's an underrated player and somebody that should be on the end of your bench. But again, I saw people dumping buckets of fab money on Darius Slayton, and I would not be doing that.
Well, the other wideout that people were going after this week was Malik Washington. Are you more bullish on the potential, right? I'm not saying that it's that you got to say that he's going to be a top 20 wide receiver, but are you more bullish on the potential for him in the Miami offense versus a Darius Slayton?
I think both offenses are a little bit, they're below average. Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so when we're talking about below average passing attacks, I'm not really clamoring to get anybody in those games. Right. So Malik Washington is an interesting player. He's mostly a slot guy, and we'll find out whether or not he can fill in that role here for Miami. But I do think that Jalen Waddle will probably dominate some of the looks overall. And if Mike McDaniels has his druthers, man, like, he'd be insane to not be building his entire playbook around Jalen Waddle because he is truly
he's great.
The best player, best pass catcher on that offense. And I think Mike McDaniels is a pretty smart guy, man. Like, so I would imagine that he's going to change the playbook and play calling to kind of sort of gravitate around Jalen Waddle and Darren Waller to a degree.
Yeah. I'm probably leaning I would lean towards Washington for like ambiguity purposes. I liked him as a prospect because I think he has good yak ability, and we've seen that work. You mentioned Jonnu, right, in the Dolphins offense last year. Like Mike McDaniel will utilize those yak players, as much as he can. Obviously we see this lower ADOT, like whether it to be to HN or to Jonnu last year, and I could see some of that manufactured stuff happening a little bit more for Malik. I'm just more like intrigued by the question marks surrounding him and the ambiguity surrounding him. We have no idea. Right. Yeah. So why not, throw that dart? But yeah, I'm with you from the standpoint of like, let's not anticipate a league winning type player. Like I got him for like 5. Like I think that his fab range, in my opinion, depending on the depth of the league, was like 5 to 15% this week. Like nothing crazy, just someone who might be able to be a filler for you. But let's hope that we can be pleasantly surprised by him. This episode is sponsored by DraftKings. There's no better way to get closer to the action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for football fans. New customers can play free for their share of millions in prizes with their first deposit of $5 or more. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter promo code LATEROUND to play free for your share of millions. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. 18 plus in most states. Eligibility restrictions apply. Ends December 31st. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions. Now back to the show. Let's talk about the Bengals offense, because we now have 2 weeks without Joe Burrow, and it's been hellish. Like I sent a tweet that it reminds me so much of last year when the Dolphins were without Tua, and it was just death, watching that offense perform. And I got a lot of people responding being like, well, this is what happens whenever a team loses their starting quarterback. No, it's not always this dramatic of a drop. It's not always like there's a gray area here that we can talk. And there's nuance with this where this offense has just looked so putrid. I mean, do you have any hope for these wideouts? Do you think it's matchup based? Like, are you at least a little bit optimistic about that? Do you like the usage still from like a Chase Brown? Where are you at with these guys?
So I would say this. I know it has been absolutely atrocious and awful the last couple of weeks, but matchups matter, man. In week number 3, he's going up against Brian Flores in that hyper-aggressive Minnesota defense where they're masking coverages really, really well. And Jake Browning, who, again, has some professional experience. He just doesn't have that much experience, right? Like looking at what these defenses are presenting him right now. So that's week number 3. And then week number 4, it's Denver. Right. Like, again, Denver is going to put these guys in absolute brain pretzels. And that's what happened. You know what I mean? Dude, I mean, again, if you look at what the schedule is like for Cincinnati right now, I just laid out Minnesota, Denver. Week 1, they had to play Cleveland. Yeah. Bro, this has been probably most difficult passing schedule to open the season for damn near any of these teams. And it's for me, it's Cincinnati. You know what I mean? So right now they've got Detroit, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and the Jets coming up. Green Bay's tough. Detroit's dealing with a lot of injuries in the secondary right now. Pittsburgh is not as good as advertised. And the Jets are kind of sort of up and down as well. Then they've got Chicago in week number 9 with Jalen Johnson on IR too. So I think it's going to ease up here a little bit for Cincinnati. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. That being said, obviously they have not shown very much over the last couple of weeks. So, and it's not like these teams that they're going up against are just bad. Yes. So I think it's more of a neutral matchup over the next 4 weeks, and let's just see what Cincinnati brings to the table. But it's going to be better than what we saw the last couple of weeks.
I think you're right, and I do think that this week is a big week for just like a general litmus test of like where they really are. And again, I don't love like going super vibes based like this, but at the same time, Minnesota, when they played Cincinnati, they were coming off a really bad loss against Atlanta, right? And then that primetime game.
Great point.
And then
it's a great point.
And then Denver, and then they're playing in Minnesota, right? So they're in Minnesota. So Cincinnati's on the road. Very next week, Cincinnati's on the road again, playing against Denver, who's coming off a brutal loss against the Chargers, right? And I don't like, obviously I'm an analytics based analyst, and I focus on numbers, and I'm supposed to not believe in some of this stuff. but I think that we are all human, right? And I do think there is sort of these like different kind of motivators and things that matter to these teams. And in these cases, Cincinnati, and I'm not trying to just like cope, because what do I care? I mean, it's not like I was like, like needing to have all these, I don't need the Bengals to be really, really good. I'm just trying to be objective about this, where like realistically, Cincinnati's been in two really, really tough spots when you add on that context too. And so now they're at home this weekend. They get a much, like you said, the Lions are banged up. If they can't get it done this week, I'm going to be even more, like I'm kind of nervous right now, but I'm saying like panic button, I will press officially and be very scared about what's to come. But the one player that I do want to dig into a little bit more is Ja'Marr Chase, where, I sent a tweet out earlier this week and I actually talked about it on the 10 Trends episode too, but Ja'Marr Chase with Jake Browning, 8 games with Browning. Browning's played 9. He's had 8 with Ja'Marr Chase. Chase is averaging 11.2 PPR points per game with Jake Browning, where without him, it's 22. So he's basically seen his production cut in half. So we're going to play a little game here. I've been playing games on perspectives recently. We're going to go one wide receiver by one wide receiver. And you're going to tell me which wide receiver versus Ja'Marr Chase, so either Ja'Marr Chase or this wide receiver, you want more rest of season. The first wide receiver I'm going to throw out there is Chris Olave.
I would, man. This one's really, really close.
I'm assuming you're an Olave bro, because just
I am.
Yeah, I'm an Olave bro too. So like Olave bros are we love some Chris Olave. So I feel you.
Yeah. No, listen. And by the way, the volume is there too, right? Like he's number 2 in the NFL in terms of total targets among wide receivers, right? Like Puka Nakua's 1 at 50. Chris Olave's not that far behind. He's got 43 for goodness sakes, like, so it's there, and again, air yards are there too. It's just the volume is there for Chris Olave. And like, it hasn't totally worked out because Rattler isn't that good. But I'm probably trusting Rattler, and you know what? I might be trusting the schedule a lot more for Chris Olave than Ja'Marr Chase right now. That being said, man, Ja'Marr Chase is so damn good, It's like he just needs to like crack one, That's all it takes is for him to like break one
and
tackle and he's gone.
And he can do it like any game. Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to tentatively say Chris Olave. Like 51-49% Chris Olave over Ja'Marr Chase rest of the season.
If you want to give me percentages, I like percentages. So if you want to do the out of 100 and you want to say that's even better. It'll give the listeners a better idea. All right. Next on the list is Xavier Worthy.
No. Give me Ja'Marr Chase. Look, Xavier Worthy is an important piece for Kansas City. And obviously we saw him blow up in a couple different spots. But that being said, I think he's still like he's not like an every down, we got to get it to him player. You know what I mean? Like he is a role player. He's a really important role player. But I just don't think, on a week by week basis, I think we're going to see some ups and some downs, especially when Rashee Rice comes back.
Yeah, I think the Rice factor is definitely important. How about Emeka Egbuka?
Okay. If you love Olave, you love Egbuka.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually really true. Yeah, the Venn diagram of Olave and Egbuka lovers.
It's just a circle.
It's just a circle.
Yeah, it's just a circle. Right.
Yeah.
No, and so obviously I love Egbuka as well. One of my many roles is being a Big Ten analyst for my local NBC station here. So I saw a lot of Egbuka last year, and man, I was so in on him. And when he charted out well from Matt Harmon's perspective, I was like, yep, this is it. We're in. Look, I love Egbuka, but that being said, Mike Evans is coming back at some point. Chris Godwin's already back. Very much a competition for targets. While I love Baker, I just don't think he can support 3 high-level wide receivers. Ja'Marr Chase is clearly the alpha in Cincinnati, and while we don't like what we've seen from Jake Browning thus far, I think he's smart enough to know. Let's go ahead and feed Ja'Marr Chase 8 to 12 targets a game. And so I think from that perspective, I will take Ja'Marr Chase. Hey, by the way, JJ, what we haven't talked about at all is the fact that a potential trade could be on the horizon too, right? Like, sure. To your point, that if Jake Browning goes out there against a banged up secondary for Detroit and absolutely just pukes all over himself, 100% Cincinnati's getting on the call, and they're either going to pick up Kirk Cousins or Jameis Winston. And man, can you imagine? Jameis Winston?
Give me Jameis in this offense. That's the thing, though. Like Cincinnati, let me put on my GM hat, my team building hat. Cincinnati, to me, like you either go in and you say we're going to just try to make the playoffs, and maybe Joe Burrow will be back for that time, or you like trade T. Higgins.
Tank it.
Yeah. Like you do things and you go, like, I think that the problem would be just being stagnant and just doing this over and over and over again if they can't get it going, this week against Detroit. So that would be my thing is like, let's see, I really do think that they need to like pick a destination to go to.
Here's the thing. What about if you do the best of both worlds, and you just lose, but it's super fun?
I mean, yeah.
That's Jameis.
That's literally Jameis.
That's Jameis. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you're still selling seats because it's fun.
Yeah.
Right? We're still watching bombs go to T. Higgins, bombs go to Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
It's super fun, but we're still losing ball games because Jameis is turning the ball over 2 to 3 times a game. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. Like, I feel like that might be the best of both worlds. The problem would be if you brought in Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And if Kirk Cousins still has juice, like he could legitimately take you to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would probably be the biggest problem, because then what do you do at the end of the season? Like you got Kirk Cousins here, you got, Joe Burrow here, Jake Browning's still under contract too. It's like, we got an issue here. But that being said, Jameis, everyone kind of knows Jameis is like this, like, he's a stopgap kind of quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that's what would make it the most fun. You're still losing games, so your draft status is still protected.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, it's a hell of a lot of fun watching Jamar Chase and T. Higgins catch 50-yard bombs.
Yeah, right. And the best part is that Jameis himself is super self-aware, and so he will just have fun with it too. That's why it's so awesome.
Totally.
That's why it's the greatest. All right, next guy, George Pickens versus Jamar Chase.
Oh man, I gotta know how long CD Lamb is out for.
Let's say CD is out for 2 more weeks.
Obviously for the next 2 weeks, I want George Pickens. There's no question.
Yeah.
No question. But I mean, if we're talking season long, I think I'll still lean towards Jamar, because again, once CD comes back, he's still going to be a target dominator. Maybe they have found something here with Jake Ferguson as well.
Yeah.
I don't love Jake Ferguson, but he's a really nice complementary tight end.
Yeah.
So they're going to get him the football.
Yeah. He's a target gobbler. I mean, it's really, people hate this. And I said this at the start of the season, because I mentioned that TJ Hawkinson is this era's Greg Olsen, where like the ceiling isn't like insane, but the floor is generally there, right? Like Ferguson can be that floor type of player from a fantasy perspective, especially in an offense that's just throwing the ball a lot.
Well, he also reminds me a lot of like late career Jason Witten. If we're staying on that same team,
yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Like the Hawk and Olsen thing, I think are at least like comparable athletes and stuff. Ferguson isn't even at that level. It's more of like the I mean, later career Jason Witten probably.
Yeah.
All right, AJ Brown next versus Jamar Chase.
I don't know. JJ, what are we doing over here with AJ Brown, bro?
What are we doing with AJ Brown? That's why I got to ask you.
What are we doing out here, man? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just so problematic, The new OC there for Philadelphia, I just think he's in over his head, Like, when you have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, who's still developing as a quarterback, and you're throwing for less than 200 yards in most of your games here, I just don't know what we're doing. They're like, yes, they're winning games, but they're making it so damn hard on themselves.
It doesn't need to be this hard. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be this hard, man. And the other thing I would say is like, they have taken over this Kansas City, like aura check. Like it's all about Kansas City last year's winning all these games just based on aura.
Yeah.
It's ugly. It's disgusting. It's gross. But you know what? They're just winning games and they just keep winning these 1-score games. That's Philadelphia right now. So if you're an Eagles fan, great. Maybe they continue to do that. Maybe they just have all these aura wins, like where they're just winning these 1-score games, but it's ugly.
Yeah.
But man, nobody's making a move. Last year, nobody was making a move for anyone on KC. This year, nobody's making a move for anybody on Philadelphia. I don't know what the hell to make of AJ Brown's role. It seems like, I don't want to say he's like checked out, but damn, dude, He's on checked out adjacent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like he is very close to basically throwing in the towel on 2025. And if Kevin Patullo can't figure that part of it out, I don't know what they're going to do, man. So, and by the way, this has been going on for a couple of years now where AJ Brown just wants the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and
so I think it's coming to a head.
And he's one of the rare players where it's like, yeah, he's kind of got a point, you know, like he should be getting the ball. Yeah. The problem that I see that, you know, I was pretty bullish on the passing attack for Philly to just throw the ball a lot more this year, because it was almost impossible for them not to. And I think that the miscalculation is obviously with Patullo, like we're not seeing, number one, nearly as many plays run as we did with Kellen Moore, because Kellen Moore likes to run at a fast pace. You know, that's not everything, but that's at least something. I think the bigger thing is just from an efficiency standpoint, they're not doing the basic things that we know work analytically, which is like getting guys in motion, a lot of play action, and they're not even doing like as much like RPO stuff. Like just get the defenses on their heels a little bit more and open things up that way, because their running attack has not been that good this year, you know, at least, you know, versus what we saw in 2024. And so I think all of that is sort of compounded. I think a lot of people are just like, you know, oh, you said regression was going to hit and it's not hitting. That's not really what's going on here. I think it's beyond that. It's really like X's and O's that's happening, and them just like running this really ridiculously stale offense. And if they don't change things, and I'm not, you know, as each week passes by, I'm becoming less and less optimistic that they are going to change things.
And wouldn't you also say too, just from a schematic standpoint, they ask AJ Brown to run the most difficult route tree. Right? Like it's like you're going to be an outside X receiver. You're not going to get any help. We're not going to put you in motion. Again, and we're going to ask you to run vertical and or comebacks. Like where are the designed plays for AJ Brown? Yeah. Like where is just let's get this guy in motion and have him run a deep over. Let's get this guy running a quick slant route and just feed him the rock here just a little bit. You know, like where are the design touches for AJ Brown? I actually think from like a Jalen Hurts perspective, I don't actually disagree with why he's not going to AJ Brown, because again, you're asking him to run the most difficult route tree, and I'm not saying he's covered, but there's certainly shading coverage towards him. So they're trying to take him away. He himself is not running routes that well, right? Like why would you go to AJ Brown? So again, when we're talking about Jamar Chase or AJ Brown, you hit it right on the head. I don't see a lot changing. Yeah. Right? Scary. Unless they fire Patullo, which is a possibility. But they have to start losing games for that to happen. And right now, like I said, I think they're just racking up aura wins, man. Yeah. So I would take Jamar Chase over AJ Brown easily. Yeah.
Last one, Nico Collins.
Look, it's Nico Collins all the way, right? Like, again, I think Houston's offense is starting to find itself a little bit, although it was against Tennessee and it was a blowout, you know, like by the way, the whole Woody Marks thing is really interesting to me too. And don't get me wrong, like, I like Woody Marks. I charted Woody Marks. I said, hey, Woody Marks will be a great fit for this team. And if he can figure out pass pro, and I think he's figured out pass pro a little bit here. So it's working out. Okay. That being said, I am one of those people that you can't take a ton out of a 26-0 blowout, right? Like the snap share percentages, the usage rates, and all that stuff, like all that stuff gets really, really wonky in a blowout. You know what I mean? So, and so I get it. Like we're excited about Woody Marks. He's a rookie. Nick Chubb is old and he's injured. Yeah. Or he's coming off a major injury. So we don't like Nick Chubb. All right. I get it. That being said, I don't know if it's like a 58-40 split moving forward like we saw here in week number 4. I still think it's going to be 50-50. And yeah, I think there will be some very up and down weeks here for Woody Marks. This whole proclamation of, he's taken over that backfield. I don't know, man. Like it, by the way, he may have totally. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't necessarily point to the Tennessee game and say, well, this is why he has taken over the backfield. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see another week or two before I'm really comfortable and all in on Woody Marks moving forward. But man, to back to the original question, go ahead and give me Nico Collins over Jamar Chase rest of the season.
Yeah. The Woody Marks stuff is interesting because at the very least, to me, it was always just like process play for me, because like I liked Marks as a prospect, but I didn't love Marks as a prospect. You know, like I thought he was just like really solid, especially as a pass catcher. Like he had that in his arsenal, but you know, wasn't like the most athletic. What I've seen from Woody Marks in the NFL, and it might just be like the juxtaposition of him versus Nick Chubb, who I think is just not quite, you know, he's obviously not the same kind of player that he used to be.
No,
it might just be that like juxtaposition of, okay, I'm watching him versus Chubb and he just looks way more dynamic than Nick Chubb, versus me thinking about Woody Marks and watching him from college and seeing what he was like in college. Because it's almost like I see him as a better, like he's playing better, I think, as a pure between the tackles runner. He made some really nice moves even last week too. And so like, it's a really weird eval. But at the very least, you know, it's hard for me, and I think anyone, to be like, yeah, I'm going to go all in on Nick Chubb right now, you know, just based on what we've seen.
So, okay, let me give some numbers here in regards to my charting of Woody Marks, right? Like he was one of the worst, you know, between the tackles runners.
Yeah, not surprised.
Among the 12 guys that I charted last year, right? But he was one of the best in terms of running outside zone.
Yep.
Right. So I wonder, I'm very curious because Nick Caley's coming from this LA background. Yep. I guess he has a little New England background too, right? New
England, yeah.
Right. So if we're talking New England, that's going to be more between the tackles. If we're talking about Sean McVay, mixed bag, because early in his career he was exclusively outside zone, and you know, over the last couple of years he's been almost exclusively inside zone.
Yeah.
But we figure there's going to be some zone stuff in regards to what Houston is doing. What's interesting is that with Nick Chubb as the lead, prior to week number 4, through the first 3 weeks of the season, Houston ran between the tackles at a 75% clip, by far the most in the NFL.
Yeah.
But if we're going to start utilizing Woody Marks, who, again, I don't think he's very good in between the tackles, but I think he's great outside.
Yep.
If we're going to utilize Woody Marks, we have to change the run game just a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to start getting to the outside a lot more. To your point, JJ, you know, in week number 4, he did look a lot better between the tackles than I thought he would.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But if we stretch that out across the entire season, I think we will see him get back to what we saw in college, which is a guy who struggles, you know, in between the tackles. And honestly, man, like, you know, actually he was a pretty explosive player too. Like, you know, he had a 23% explosive play rate among the plays that I charted for Woody Marks. And when we're talking about the top 12 guys that I charted, he was actually number 1 in explosive play rate. So he actually has that in his bag.
He just didn't test well.
Yeah,
you know, I
know.
You know, that like that
Right.
also was problematic. Like just from like, you know, an overall like, what does this guy look like evaluation standpoint?
100%. But to your point, like he's a good pass catcher. He's actually explosive when he can get to the outside. But let's just see if Houston modifies their offensive scheme just a little bit to kind of utilize his athleticism just a little bit more.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about what I think is probably the most interesting, one of the more interesting storylines. I don't know if I would call it like a surprise per se, but it's at least like, I think like something that's, you know, easily top 3 change, like changing the fantasy landscape this year things. That was horribly worded. That's why I'm not a broadcaster. I'm just a podcaster. Let me just get to it. The Chargers offense, right?
Yes.
The pass catchers there. Is Lad McConkey dust? How are you viewing these wide receivers? And then the last thing I'll say is, does the offensive line stuff worry you now?
The offensive line definitely worries me. Yeah. There's no question. And that played itself out as they lost in a surprising, shocking manner to the New York Giants. Yeah. And again, just Herbert was under pressure a lot. Okay. That being said, you know, is Lad McConkey dust? No. And actually those two things are related. And I would say because their tackle problems are going to be a problem for the next, you know, 4, 5, 6 weeks here. I think that, and again, remember, Joe Alt got injured in the game, right? Mm-hmm. Now that they have an entire week of game planning to kind of sort of set things right, don't be surprised if LA now starts to lean on more of a quick game, right? Like a quick passing attack, right? And these deep developing downfield shots for Quentin Johnston, they kind of sort of, I don't want to say evaporate entirely, but we see a lot less of them.
Yeah.
You know, and in that way, who's going to be the guy that gets open the fastest? I mean, shoot, that's Ladd McConkey.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I think the tackle issues and Ladd McConkey's production might be a little bit related, you know? I wouldn't be surprised to see Ladd McConkey get back on track this week as the offensive game plan gears itself to kind of sort of work around the tackle issues, just so Herbert's just not getting destroyed in the pocket like he was there in week number 4. So, no, I don't think Ladd McConkey's dust. Yes, the tackle situation concerns me. Omarion Hampton, his usage might be a little bit concerning as well. But again, if they're trying to keep Justin Herbert healthy, it probably makes a lot of sense to try to feed the rookie the rock a little bit. So I don't know, we'll see. But I think that Ladd does have a chance, especially with these tackle issues, to come back over the next couple of weeks.
I've texted Harmon a little bit about the QJ stuff as it was happening the first couple of weeks of the season. And look, I know that, you know, he's surprised because he's playing better and such. And it's just, to me, it's okay that this could just be one of those things where the player got better and the usage changed a little bit and he's getting, you know, better looks for what he is capable of doing. Sure. Are you, like, if you were to right now, putting you on the spot, pick either Ladd or QJ rest of season, do you have a lean with what? You can give me a percentage again if it's helpful, but do you have a lean with those guys?
I do. I'm going 55-45 Ladd.
Okay.
You know, my lean there would be Ladd. I know he hasn't really, and again, to be honest with you, I think more concerning than Quentin Johnston has been the usage of Keenan Allen. Right? Like Keenan Allen, I thought was just, you don't want to talk about dust. Shoot, I thought Keenan Allen was dust last year. I'm watching him in Chicago, man. Like, I don't know. Maybe he just hates the cold. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Hey, and listen, he's an older player. Maybe the cold's impacted him. I don't know, man. But like, I thought he was dust last year, bro.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, him and his crazy ass shoulders come to LA and he's rejuvenated. You know, like what's going on here? I was not anticipating that. I thought this was more of like a depth signing at best. You know what I'm saying? But no, he's actually been a huge integral part of the passing attack. That's the only reason why I'm not just like, nah, this is ridiculous. Like Ladd 80% for sure going to be better than Quentin Johnston. Yeah. It has nothing to do with Quentin Johnston. It has everything to do with the usage of Keenan Allen.
Yeah, there's a little bit more redundancy between those two versus QJ.
Totally.
You know, and that would be the issue overall. All right, real quick before I let you go. Give me any sell candidate or candidates that you have right now in fantasy.
Sell candidate, we go back to Quentin Johnston. He's second in the league in air yards. There's no tackles left. I just don't think the game plan is going to allow for QJ to see these deep downfield shots. QJ, for me, big time sell.
All right, give me a buy candidate.
I'm going to say at wide receiver, I think Tet McMillan. He's the wide receiver 33 right now. When I saw that, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is Tet McMillan the wide receiver 33? This guy's been playing really good football.
He's been great, yeah.
I mean, he has been incredibly good. Like from an actual on-field perspective, he's a stud, man.
Yeah.
He is 7th in total air yards, though. So again, the volume is there for him to absolutely outkick this wide receiver 33 price tag right now, bro. So for me, I think he's a huge buy. I think he has. Man, this might be a little hot takey, but I think he has a skill set very similar to Nico Collins. A downfield, big-bodied X-receiver who's actually a much better route runner than you think, right? Like, I have been really surprised by his start-stop ability on comebacks and curls. He's been good on dig routes as well. I just think that the skill set between Tet and Nico Collins are pretty similar. And yeah, he's a huge buy for me right now. Wide receiver 33, dude, he could absolutely finish as a top 12 wide receiver, especially given the injury landscape right now.
Yeah. I mean, I had Tet as a target this year. You know, I had him as a buy candidate last week on the show, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that because his go-to comp and his typical comp was like a Drake London coming out. I think that's another player. Like he's like aiming toward, like he's going towards that right now too. Like he's a beast. He's very good. And so I'm excited to see, you know, what he'll be capable of. Hopefully Bryce Young can can turn things around a little bit because he's been pretty inconsistent this year too.
You know, JJ, even if it's not Bryce and they go to Andy Dalton at some point and Bryce Young's career is just done and over with, even then it's going to be an upgrade at quarterback, right? Yeah. Like I would not be surprised at all if they make the quarterback change and the offense improves. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't know. Yeah,
sad, but it's true. All right, last thing, throw me a hot take for week 5.
I don't know. I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs as the wide receiver 1.1 this week.
I like it.
Okay,
revenge
listen.
Game.
We're talking, if we're talking vibes, come on, man. Like, it doesn't get more vibey than this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking revenge game of revenge games, man. Like, New England taking on Buffalo, and Stephon Diggs, his production and his usage has ramped up.
Yep.
Finally cracked the century mark last week against Carolina. And again, he is the number 1 wide receiver in this passing attack. Drake May is developing as well. And dude, Diggs is catching everything.
Yeah.
He's caught 19 of 22 targets come his way, but he hasn't caught a touchdown yet. So I'm going to say, in addition to my hot take of wide receiver 1.1, I am going to say, how does he get there? He's going to get there by catching 2 touchdowns this week against Buffalo, a team that has been giving up production and touchdowns to outside wide receivers. As a matter of fact, I believe they've given up a touchdown to an outside wide receiver in 3 consecutive games. So I think that Stephon Diggs, hot take, Stephon Diggs catches 2 touchdowns, ends up as the top scoring wide receiver this week in fantasy football.
I love it. Buffalo banged up too. I mean, they could, that game could be fun for fantasy. There's a very real chance it could be fun for fantasy. Do you think that with Diggs, just since we're on the topic, do you think that they were just kind of like slow playing it to make sure that he was good? And because like literally in weeks 2 and 3, he had like sub 60% route shares for them, and then this past week, finally over that 80% mark. And obviously, the production came.
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes a lot of sense. They don't want to rush the guy out there. And to be honest with you, they're still ahead of timeline, aren't they? Like I was under the impression he wasn't going to be ready till like week 6, 7, 8. And like we're in week 4, 5, and they've pretty much ramped him up to full speed.
Yeah. And he's startable. And this is a horrific week. I don't know if you've looked at wide receiver rankings. This is a horrific week for wideout. So if you're going to choose a hot take, it's probably good to do it at the wide receiver position for a guy to be the 101 this week because the position is such trash right now. Yeah.
I know. I mean, you think about like JJ McCarthy in a bad spot right now. The defense that, the defensive matchup doesn't line up. Jamar Chase, obviously we just talked about him at length. Yeah. There's just so many opportunities and pitfalls for the top wide receivers right now.
Yeah. James, this was great, man. Always great talking to you. Let everyone know where they can find you, what you're working on, all that good stuff.
You know what? I'm going to get to all that, but I wanted to talk to you about this in particular because we talked about the running back stuff and I didn't get this out and I want to get this out. Okay.
Let's hear it.
And you're a data guy and I just want to get this kind of sort of idea out there because I don't think we focus on this enough. But did you know that 10 of the top 15 running backs last year ran to the outside more than they ran to the inside? So outside run rate to me is something that no one talks about in fantasy. And I just want to get that out to you and your audience where we focus a little bit more on outside run rate. Like if you think about Kyle Shanahan, if you think about Gary Kubiak, what were these guys so successful at? They were finding random running backs doing what? Running outside zone.
Yeah. With tons of speed.
And so with tons of speed and honestly, maybe not even tons of speed because Justin Forsett at the age of 29 had 1,500 scrimmage yards under Gary Kubiak when he was the Baltimore OC. Like, again, these guys have been kingmakers doing what? Running to the outside. And that has still proven itself to be true.
Yeah.
Again, 10 of the top 15 rushers last year ran to the outside more than they ran to the inside. So it's not a perfect stat, but again, if we're looking for profile, markers, can guys run to the outside is one of the most important factors I look for when we're talking about high upside running backs. It's not everything, but no stat is going to capture everything.
Yeah.
And we have all these metrics for wide receivers, yards per route run, air yards, all these things. We don't have enough of that for running backs. And let me tell you right now, JJ, I really, truly, honestly, really feel strongly about this. And this is why I'm bringing it up out of the blue randomly to you right now.
I love this.
Is that outside run rate is one of those markers for me to find a really good high upside running back. And I just want you to start looking into that, JJ, because I know you can, and I know you love the data. Okay. And if you can start to get this out there, man, like I'm just trying to preach this gospel of, hey, listen, if you're looking for high upside running backs, look at outside run rate.
Has that been something that you looked at from a prospecting standpoint that is translated as well? Like that's a marker of someone that you like would be more interested in?
100%. And again, when we're talking about outside success rate, and again, you could find this data too on receptionperception.com through my running back charting. But yeah, it's like these guys that can run to the outside well. Like I just talked about Woody Marks running to the outside really, really well. It should be not a surprise that he is a high upside running back here, right? Ashton Ginty was the best. He was literally the best at running to the outside in college, right? So again, that's the kind of profile that I am looking for when we're trying to find these guys that can play. Now, again, it's not 100% success rate, man. It's not 100% hit rate. But again, we're trying to find the edges here, trying to find a little bit of an advantage that maybe your league mates don't know about. And I know for a fact, no one in fantasy is talking about this. And so again, if you and your listeners start to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more research into this, I do think that this can be an advantage and we can be early on this trend of looking for outside run rate in regards to finding sleeper running backs.
I love it. And I love that you just brought it up out of the blue like that. It's fantastic. That's great.
Hey, listen, if there's any audience that's gonna consume this, man, it's gonna be your audience.
Of course,
man,
people are gonna love that. Yeah, of course. I want any guest to come on and just say, "Hey, I want to talk about this thing." Yeah, I want to talk about it too. It's very interesting. I haven't dug into it, enough. I mean, the thing that's going through my head is just like the correlation of what we know, what we want in fantasy football in particular, which is usually like generally athletic backs that can create these big plays and these splash plays and kick it to the outside at the very least. That's why I was interested in like Kenneth Walker this year in that Kubiak system. Yep. I mean, my God, like totally. That combination could be glorious if they just let it happen, right? And that's no shade to Zach Charbonnet. I think Charbonnet's fine. He's just not the same kind of player as Kenneth Walker is. And so like my brain's going to the correlation of just kind of like that. But I do wonder, obviously there's going to be an overlap of like just scheme and the fact that like those that Shanahan tree and the Kubiak tree is going to be more efficient generally because of the stuff that you were talking about earlier with the offensive line play and such, and them getting more out of that and being able to coach that better. And then that'll trickle down into these running backs having the capability and ability to do that. But totally. I do wonder parsing that out, like really looking into that and sort of like segmenting it if you could find some gems and looking at things that way. It's great.
Yeah, for me right now, that shortcut is outside run rate, man. And again, that kind of sort of encapsulates everything that you're talking about. Is it scheme? Is it talent? Who cares?
That's true.
If they're running the ball to the outside, that means a lot of things are moving in that direction, which is talent level for the running back. He can kick it to the outside. Yep. He's got that athleticism. Yep. And maybe the run scheme is also built to run it to the outside as well. So when I look at outside run rate, it's like a shortcut number into, okay, can they get it done on the outside? So again, it's just a random, totally like no one talks about this in fantasy football. I think they should. And it's something that I'm like preaching right now as gospel as I am like getting more into the running back charting as well.
I'm going to dig into it more. I love it, man. Let everyone know what you're working on though. What's going on at Reception Perception, how awful of a coworker Matt Harmon is, all that stuff.
Matt's the worst.
Yes,
huge ego. Yeah. No. He's the most humble dude you'll ever find. But no, it's been great over there. Obviously, we're doing stuff. I'm writing for Yahoo. I'm creating content for RotoWire. Man, I'm obsessed with finding jobs, and I just got to keep working, But yeah, fantasy football is my life, man. I love doing what I'm doing here. We're doing running back charting now for Reception Perception. as well. If you want to find me at James D. Co. on all the socials, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter X, or hell, even YouTube. If you want to find me on YouTube, you can go and do that too and shoot me a message. I'm pretty good about getting back to DMs.
Yes. I'm on Twitter at Late Round QB, Blue Sky at Late Round QB, all that stuff. Make sure you're checking out lateround.com. Subscribe to the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LateRoundFF. Thanks for listening, everyone. But more importantly, thanks for tuning in.